is the MD. Another MD will come. So it means that the day we start to work, we need to recognize that there will be a day when we exit. And the best way to begin to plan for retirement is to begin at the very start and to look at the end. Always have the end in mind. When I get a job today, I should also think about when I'm out of that job. And you can be out of that job in many ways. Some of you, you will work and retire on the basis of age, those that are lucky. Some of you, the employer, will go through certain changes and they can no longer have all employees on their payroll and you might be forced out. Some of you may simply make your choice and say, I'm no longer interested in working for a company, let me go and work for myself. Either way, you still need to have planned better during the time when you had income flowing on a consistent basis. So plan with the end in mind. What kind of retirement do you want to have? Where do you want to retire to? What kind of lifestyle do you want to live? That lifestyle cannot live by accident. You've got to consistently plan when you still have a steady income. So part of that income should go towards activities that put you in a better place when you are no longer actively employed. So begin with the end in mind. We've observed certain things that happen in this space called retirement. One of it is something that we call longevity. If you read the report from UBOS, our lifespan has increased. Our lifespan or our life expectancy at birth today is 68 years. Some years ago, Ugandans used to say they don't live beyond 40. That has changed. Our new life expectancy at birth is 68. By the way, I'm emphasizing at birth because when you are 60 today and you are retiring, we no longer look at the 68. For you, you've got a chance of living for another 20 plus years. So people that are 60 today, 55 today, you have a chance of living for another 20 to 25 years. So our life expectancy has improved. But as it improves, and you know that you're going to live longer when you're no longer actively employed, how are you planning for those extended number of years? The bad news is that for women, it is even higher. The women will live on average longer than this what? Age. And I keep joking with my team and I say, why is it that women tend to outlive us? Why is it that you find more widows than you find widowers? And someone told me that it's because men by our nature, every day we take risks to protect our women. You don't agree? That is why we die earlier, because we are risking such that women can live what? Longer. All the men tend to agree. But the key message is this, that you are likely to live longer when you no longer have a steady income called a salary. So longevity has got implications how you plan for your old age. If you can, start saving early. If you're in this room and you are still young, that is your perfect time to start saving. If your employer is not, paying the right amount, report early. Sometimes you might come to report when the employer no longer exists. So please report when? Today. Because that gives you a chance to save more money. So begin saving early. NSSF law was amended. Today it is possible for you to contribute more than 5%. So consider matching what your employer is saving for you. If the employer is saving for me 10%, why am I saving 5%? I can also begin saving 10%. That will mean that my total balance with NSSF will multiply much faster than if I remain saving the 5% that is provided for by the law. So please consider saving more. And you can. People will say, no, the salary is small, but you can save more if you deliberate about it. So consider matching what your employer is saving. But most importantly, have additional arrangements to cover you in your old age. I can confirm to you that the money that many of you have in NSSF will not be sufficient. So what more are you doing with the rest of the income that you have? What additional plans are you undertaking? Because you live longer and old age poverty is extremely difficult to handle. The other key aspect is around parenting. Many of us in this room are parents. We have children. It was fashionable so many years ago in Africa to leave our old age planning to our children. So all that a man did was to have as many wives and as many children. And because the number of children was very big, you took a gamble and said, if they are 20, at least 3 or 4 of them may look after me. Today we are producing less. I don't know whether our fertility has gone down or the economy is so hard that we are mindful. But today we're having less and less children. So even the gamble that 1 or 2 of them may look after me may not actually materialize. Today, it would be a big mistake for anyone in this room to not plan for yourself and think that your children will look after you. The bad news is that most of your children will not look after you. In fact, what is even happening these days, that there are parents in this room that are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and they are still looking after their children. They are still adult children living with their parents. So if that child of yours is still living in your house and you expect that they will look after you, you need to make a lot more money. Because in addition to looking after yourself, you might also continue looking after your own children. But it is also depressing for you to have children and you think they'll take care of everything. You don't want a situation where even your children fear to visit you. Because every time they visit, daddy or mommy wants what? Money. You can also be the kind of parent that children come to visit and you even have the means to support them, especially if they have businesses. The people that believe in the Bible, it even talks about leaving an inheritance for your children's children. So how do you leave an inheritance for your children's children when your expectation is that for you it is your children who should leave an inheritance for you, the parent? It will not happen. So what are some of the practical tips? Number 1, if possible, and I'm using a big if possible, let's have children early. Let's have children early, educate them early, so by the time we are retiring, we no longer have children that are still in what? In school. Of course, there could be legitimate reasons why for some people, children may not come early. But if it's within your control, please have those children early, when you still have the energy, when you still have the income. And again, except if you can't avoid it, except if you have legitimate reasons, please don't have children in retirement. So I am 60 and that's when I'm picking a new what? A new wife. I'm 65 and my wife is 25. Of course, she'll want to have what? Children. So for some reason, if I must remarry, I mean, if there must be a valid reason, you never know. And I'm 65, I'll not go and pick a girl of 25. Maybe I'll look for a woman that is also done with having what? Children. All I'm looking for is someone that can give me company. So if it's within your control, please don't have children when you are no longer working, when you are much older, and when you don't have a steady income, because children are an expensive affair. It is also good to have a mindset where you expect no support from government and from your own children. Government is already constrained enough. It must take care of health centers, of roads, okay, of the drainage in Kampala and in Mbale. That government has big problems that it will not know that someone in Manafa is suffering in their old what? Old age. So don't expect that support. Although the good news is that government tries to support. Have you heard about something called SAGE? SAGE is for older persons. The definition of older persons according to ILO are people that are 65 years and above. But because government could not afford to pay all of them, the government of Uganda has its own definition. Ours are people that are 80 years and above. So, and why did the government take it to 80? Because it just cannot afford. And should it happen that those who are above 80 refuse to die early, government might again adjust to 90. And by the way, those people are receiving only 25,000, but it has significantly changed their life. It is about consistency of that money coming. That even if I don't have sugar, I can go to the neighboring duka or shop. They'll give me a kilo of sugar because they know that at the end of the month, my surge of 25K is coming. If you don't have any expectation, no one will give you sugar. I keep telling people a story of my father who died when he was almost 80, okay? And we lived in the village in Mayuge, but every day at about 2 p.m., 3 p.m., there were about 3 men that visited my father every day. I was much younger because I'm not a planned kid. I came when my father was my grandfather, okay? But look, these men kept coming every day. In my mind, I thought they loved my father so much. Later on, I learned that my dad never ran out of Bell beer. So these guys came every day religiously because they were guaranteed at least a bottle of beer. And at their age, even half a bottle of beer knocked them out. But they had great company. They spoke about their early years as, youth, chasing girls around town. Because when they come, you'll be the one asking them for a drink. So what more are we doing to improve the quality of our life when we retire? Because government won't support you. Let's move. We've got high dependence rates in this country, but also on the continent, right? Traditionally, we come from communities where many of us are supported. So we've got an expectation to also support. We are beneficiaries of that support. My school fees was largely paid by my brother. So today, I feel an obligation to also uplift other people. But even when that is true, we must not take on what we cannot manage. You cannot be the person that will solve all problems of the world. Solve what is within your means, what is within your ability. If I'd like to support you and you're a child that I'm picking, I can take you to a school that I can afford. I shared the story of someone who retired. They were past 60. Their children had left home. So they went to Mayuge and picked a neighbor's child who was in a UPE school. And they took them to Kampala. Of course, for a kid coming from Mayuge to go to Kampala, that is already a significant upgrade, right? This person took them to a school that was paying more than 1 million. After one term, they were calling some of us to lend them what? Money. I gave them a lecture and I said, look, it is already significant enough that this child is no longer in Mayuge. Kampala has already exposed them. There are schools in Kampala for every budget. If you have 200K, there will still be a school. And these children will still study and make it in what? In life. Because when you look at all your neighbors here, they didn't all go to Nabumali High School. Did they? No. They didn't all go to King's College, Budo. They didn't all go to SMAC or Nabisusa or Namagunga. Some of us went to Mayuge High School. And we are here talking to you. So what does that mean? That you can still educate your children in the institutions that you can afford. I shouldn't take my child to a university in the UK because my boss has done the same. Can I afford it? Can I afford it? That is the key thing, okay? So let's manage our costs. Let's determine which causes we want to support. Many of us on WhatsApp groups, and every day there is a cause that is collecting money for different purposes. Either people have died, people are wedding, people having a birthday party. If you cannot finance your own birthday party, don't celebrate it. You cannot make your birthday party an affair that other people need to. By the way, I'm not saying don't contribute to causes. Please do, but do within your. So many people are wedding. You can contribute, but contribute what you can afford. And by the way, if you can't afford it, it's also okay. Don't feel shy. Don't borrow to make a contribution because you're scared what people will say. Those people will not be there when you're struggling with poverty. So do not borrow to please people. If you cannot be able to contribute to a wedding, that wedding will still take place. Do you know that? Your failure to make a contribution will not stop the wedding from. And we are the ones that make these functions extremely expensive. At the end of the day, marriage is not defined by the quality of the wedding ceremony that you had. So you can take a few people to the registry, or you can even go to the church, a few people. You can even cut out the reception. I think in Africa we spend too much on marriage. You marry the same girl 4 times. That is true because you go for kuchala, and some people's kuchala are really big. Then after that, they go for kwanjula. Then after kwanjula, they go, I'm told, is it for bachelor's party or the girls, it's what party? Then after that, they go for a wedding. So you've married the same girl or the same man 4 times. I remember when I was marrying, I had the crazy idea. So I told my wife, since we're coming for Kwanjula, why don't we speak to the priest of our church, such that as soon as you come out of your house and we are done with these traditional things, then we can take our vows. Because these guests at our Kwanjula are the same people that we shall invite for the wedding. So why do we feed them twice? And my wife agreed, and we had our beautiful plan. But I think because I was a bit younger, my family bullied me and said, how can we marry a woman from their compound? But guess what? What is wrong with marrying them from there? So then you spend twice. Can we Africans consider marrying once? The people that brought church weddings to us, the Bazungu, for them they marry only. They just go to church. For us, we do it 5 times. I'd like to attend a function. By the way, I attended one recently in Jinja, where they got permission from Church of Uganda, and during the Kwanjula, they also took their vows. They don't have to wed. We can change some of these culture things and manage our money better. The other key thing that we need to consider, especially as we age, is the cost of medical care. Spouse dies, insurance gives us 5 million. When your child up to a maximum of 4 dies, they give us 2.5 per child. On a premium of how much? 120. When your parents die, including parents-in-law, so we are speaking about 4 parents, not 2. They give us 2 million per parent. Imagine taking that headache away by simply contributing 120,000 per year. Some of us can go to a bar tonight, and 120 is not sufficient for 1 round, especially depending on which bar you go to. If you're in Mbale here, there are places where you'll go and the beer is 10K. And in another place, it's 3K. So you're not simply paying for beer. You are paying for the place where you are consuming that beer from. You are paying for the AC, you are paying for the workers. So when you organize yourself in groups, you can bring down the cost of medical care. If you go as a group, even your own cost to access medical care will significantly go down. So let's leverage these groups that we belong to. So beyond chatting and the fun, which is also extremely important, can we make these groups productive and get the cost of certain things lowered because of the power of the group? We also need to interrogate our lifestyles. Some of us live extremely expensive lifestyles that we cannot afford. And I keep saying that there's nothing wrong with living expensively, provided you've worked hard to afford that kind of life. But some people live expensive even on debt. So you borrow to finance an expensive lifestyle. You borrow to have an expensive car when you could be able to afford one that is not very what? Expensive. And you think people care what kind of car you drive. They don't care. I keep joking with my team that sits on the 13th floor. David is one of them. I've worked with him for more than 7 years in the same location. I don't know what car he drives. Because by the time he's entering the 13th floor of worker's house, he's walking. I don't know what car he drives. I don't even know where he parked. Some people even park 2 kilometers away from their office because there is no parking. And you think people care what car you drove. They don't. People have their problems. Sometimes you might even see me in jam and you lower your glass, I will still not see you. So don't bother. Do the things that you can afford. If you do things that you cannot afford, they'll have a negative impact on your old age because you are unable to put away some money for the future because you're competing to live a life that you cannot afford today. A good future in old age depends on the sacrifices that you make today. So you can sacrifice some money and plan for your old age. Do not take debt to finance a lifestyle that is not affordable for you. Accept. I also keep telling people that when we were all growing up, we had certain dreams. But sometimes the realities of life come in. We must also be bold enough to adjust our dreams. If I can no longer do that particular thing, I can move on to another thing that I can afford. So let's accept the realities that come with life. But maybe the last key point here, especially about costs. I gave an example of someone that has their money in NSSF. They want to take their child to a university in the UK, but they must come and claim money from NSSF in order to send the child to the UK. If you must come to NSSF to remove money that is meant for your old age in order to send your child to a university in the UK, it only means one thing. You cannot afford education for your child in the UK. Send them to a university in Uganda. They will still succeed. And there is no guarantee that because you sent them to the UK, they will be successful. So do not blow away your savings that are meant to cater for your old age because you are trying to make your children believe that everything is okay. Sometimes it's even good to create what we call artificial scarcity. Sometimes when I go with my kids in the supermarket, by nature they will want everything. But it is okay to tell them that daddy does not have. It is okay. It's okay for them to know that there are times when you don't have. If my child wants a toy car that is costing 4 million, but I've not even paid their school fees, I need to be out of my senses to just pull out the 4 million. But what are you also teaching the child? So sometimes the kid will ask you for something that you can actually afford and tell them, you know what? You know your saving box at home? Any money that you receive, put in that box. Even me, I'll be putting some money for you there until when you can afford that item. And you're doing it not because you can't afford, but you're teaching your child certain financial tips. They will grow up knowing that you don't simply take something because you want it. You get something because you've worked hard towards getting it. Does this message speak to anyone here? Say amen. Okay. For some of us that are close to retirement, not even retirement alone, but I'm 44, next year I'm picking my 20% from NSSF, we need to be mindful of fraudsters. There are many on the market. And fraudsters are very smart. They know your age already. They know when you'll get your NSSF. The day you get it, they'll come to you and tell you about these deals in town. And tell you, if you place your 40 million with us, on a weekly basis, we shall give you 5 million back. And even your principal stays intact. And because you're excited about earning a lot of money, you hand over the 40 million. day you hand over is the day you last see them. And your savings are completely gone. I remember a company called Capital Chicken. Some of you know it. We had some people that took their midterm. Some people even went to banks and borrowed and said, Capital Chicken, I'm putting 5 million. They are giving me 2 million every month. What return is that? And they said, so I can borrow at 20% in a bank, put in Capital Chicken, because I'm earning a higher return. People actually borrowed. Capital Chicken positioned itself as a company that helps you to deal with the dirt of rearing chicken, and for you don't have to deal with it. So they rear chicken, multiply it, sell eggs on your behalf. People put their money without seeing a single chicken. And like these schemes work, the people that put money first actually got some money. And you know how? Because they use your own money. So the money that you put in actually in the first month, they'll give you the 2 million out of the 10 million that you put in. Second month, they may still give you another 2 what? Now you're excited, you're going to bring another 40. They will be gone. So if any scheme sounds to be too good to be true, most likely it is not true. Do not invest your hard-earned money in schemes that you've not done due diligence on. Seek professional advice whenever you want to invest your money. Undertake your own due diligence. If someone says that we're a pension scheme, go to the website of the regulator and search. If a scheme comes to Mbala and says we're a bank, go to the website of Bank of Uganda and check, is this a bank? If it's a company in the investment world, check the website of Capital Markets Authority and say, are they licensed? Do not simply give money to people that you don't understand, because it is worse, especially when it is your last check. You've saved NSSF for the last 40 years. In one day, someone takes it away. You have absolutely nothing. And I keep joking that if that happens at 60, at 70, you are likely to join your creator much earlier, because that pressure will kill you, right? Having money, by the way, makes you live longer. Did you know that? People that have money generally live longer. I was looking at data. Our neighbors in Rwanda have their scheme that is like ours is a pension scheme. So they pay them monthly what? Pension. Now their actuaries advised them that, on average by about 70 to 75, majority of your members will have died. And therefore, you no longer be paying pension. But because pension improves the quality of life, their members have refused to die. People are 85, people are 90. They have refused. And the scheme has a contractual agreement with them. You must continue paying. So there is sufficient evidence to prove that when you have money in old age, you are likely to live. And when you don't have money, all manner of sicknesses that you've never suffered will come, because poverty in its own is an illness. So let's plan better. I'm coming towards the end. If you're much older, one of the key things that you need to consider before you think of retiring, look at your debt portfolio. What kind of debt do you still have? It is extremely important to pay off your long-term debt early. You don't want to retire and you still have a significant amount of debt that you pay when you no longer have a steady monthly income. Of course, if you have a business that is making you good money, it is okay to have debt even in your old age. But if the only source was salary and the salary is no longer there, you might want to consider paying off your long-term debt early. Let me move much faster now. It is also possible that by the time you're retiring, you've not built a home. True or false? True. And it's not a crime that you didn't build a home. But it is a crime if you come to NSSF, take all your money and build a dream house. A 10-bedroom house with self-contained rooms, but all your children are gone. Who is going to sleep in those rooms? So be modest. Build something small that does not dig into your retirement savings. Okay? So do not splash your money on a dream house that you never built during your early years. Be modest, do something small, because what you need most in your old age is cash flow. It is not a big house. But many times these are errors that we make. This is, I think, my second last. It is also good to determine where you want to retire. This decision should be made early. You begin to plan for that place where you want to retire. My boss, Patrick, I've not yet figured out where he wants to retire. But every time he speaks too passionate about a village called Nyim Nyim. So I keep suspecting that perhaps he wants to retire in what? Nyim Nyim. The trends are changing more often month. But they have done amazing things with that small money. So I said, how do I participate? So the first year I joined, I was doing 100K per Saturday. This year I revised to 150 per Saturday. Okay? But what my 150K does is that the women in my village have a chance to get money to borrow, to do their business of 40K or 50K. And they are happy that so-and-so's son, who is saving more money in our circle, is making it possible for us to borrow. You see? And the good part is this. Every December they give you back your money. So they'll give me slightly more than 7 million in December. But key thing is that they were able to borrow that money. And for me, I don't go there to borrow. But it is important for me to associate with those women, to support them. Because my wife does not want to leave Kampala, those are the women that I'll spend my old age with. So you can see, I am beginning to plan. So my wife can stay in Kampala. Once in a while I can go and check on her, but I'll have a great company of hardworking women and men in my village that I can live with. Once in a while when I pass the trading center and they are taking their marua, I'll contribute 10K, and sometimes they buy a full jerrycan. And the entire weekend is covered. And even me, I participate. Because those are the very men with whom I'll be drinking when I go back to where? So I don't want to retire 20 years to come and then I go to Mayuge. No one will know me. I am doing those things today. So if you want to retire in senior quarters in Mbale, what activities of the community are you participating in today? Do you belong to a circle? Do you belong to Fathers Union? Do you belong to Mothers Union? Do you belong to a book club in your community? Such that even when you retire, you are not seen as a stranger. And those actions are done when? Today. Not when you are being told that you've got 1 year to retire. So participate in your community activities. And you don't have to participate expensively. Participate in the things that you can actually afford. Indirectly, I've spoken about this. Belong to groups that have meaning to you, that have a purpose. These groups will align with your hobbies, with the things that you like. But they give you people that are your company. It is a community. Because when you're old, they're the people that will support you. So make time for groups now, not when you're about to leave your work. We like to invest, but it is important that we diversify where we invest. If I have a few years left to retirement, and I've invested all my money in pieces of land, and in, pieces of land everywhere, there are people in this room that don't even know the number of titles they have. So you have plots in Mbale, in Manafa, in Nyim Nyim, everywhere. You have plots. The day you have a problem that requires you to gather about 20 million, that's when you realize that your plots are not able to give you the money. Our plots appreciate, that is true. But that appreciation in value is artificial. It is not actual money. You can't touch it. So as we age, it is good to move some of our money into passive assets. Things like bonds, assets that are able to generate for you income, whether you are physically present or not. I told a story of a member of NSSF who by Kampala standards is very rich. He owns malls, arcades. One time this person fell sick. He wanted to go to India and they needed 400 million. And all the tenants combined in the arcades, their monthly rent wasn't even 40 million. And yet we look at him as a rich man. The only money he had that was more than 400 million was money that he had invested in NSSF. He came and picked that money. So being okay is not about having many buildings, not about having many plots of land, but how easy is it to convert those assets into cash when you need them. So consider diversifying, but consider moving a proportion of your money into passive assets that can easily give you cash when the need for that cash comes. And finally, NSSF is a defined contribution scheme. We are a lump sum scheme. When you qualify for your money, most likely we pay you in lump sum. Of course, there are people that choose to pick a little bit of it. That also is allowed. Today, there are people that qualify to pick their NSSF and they have said, no, I'll only be coming for interest. So every year you declare interest, you give me my 10 million, 30 million, 40 million, I pick that. Or I've got my 200M, I say, let me take only 10 million. That is allowed. But if you don't have that kind of arrangement, consider investing in what we call annuities. Annuities guarantee you a monthly income. Other than picking 1 billion from NSSF and you gamble with it in a business that you've never done before, consider either leaving it with NSSF and you are able to gradually pick only what you need or when interest is given, or invest in an annuity that guarantees you a monthly income. There is power in certainty. Old age is about certainty, that even if it's little, is it consistently coming? And that will give you peace of mind. Ladies and gentlemen, retirement can be the best time of your life. But for that to happen, you must be deliberate about the actions that you take today. You must be willing to make certain sacrifices today in order to plan for your old age. Because if you don't, it can also be the very worst time that you ever lived. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Geoffrey. I think let's give him a bigger round of applause. I am very sure that we are having personal reflections. Whenever Geoffrey speaks, you begin thinking.
Islamic Media. Qibla Islamic Media.